Hey everybody, I'm Sean Gold, your moderator for today. The panel is Hollywood and Media Challenge, Platforms, Convergence, Programming, Monetization, Cross-Platform Universe. May sound similar to the panel you were just in, but this one is different because we have different people on it. So I'm going to introduce the panelists briefly, talk about why they're great so they don't have to say it, and then they're going to talk about what they do. And then we're going to go into some Q&A. We're going to sort of talk about this. I've sort of digested this panel into the evolution of, kind of what's next now and what's happening, the evolution of content creation, distribution, and monetization. So we're going to kind of focus on those three buckets, starting off in that order. And then we'll try to do some Q&A at the end. So think of something to ask. So let's see. So first we have first we have John. John's Chief Strategy Officer for Starz. Kind of early fame came from sort of building out HBO's digital strategy. He's responsible for business strategy innovation, helps sort of manage change and inspire growth at Starz. What else do I have to say about you? Oh, and he's on the executive committee member, Academy of Television Arts and Sciences, interactive peer group. Giving back a little?
Trying.
Nice. Any other charities or anything?
No, just the Consumer Electronics Association. But that's giving back in a different way. For a gadget addict, it's a pretty good gig. Yeah.
No homeless orphans or
nothing
like that?
Mostly through things that are better not set up here. But yes, we do have a active charity life.
Joel, how do you say your last name, Joel?
Kuwahara.
Joel Kuwahara.
Yeah.
Co-founder, principal of Bento Box Entertainment, produces Bob's Burgers and Bordertown on Fox, The Awesome on Hulu, Brickleberry on Comedy Central, right? Mm-hmm. Was early on production executive at Film Roman, Emmy-nominated producer on The Simpsons, and if you're an old school internet person, he was one of the co-founders of Icebox.
I was head of production for Icebox.
Head of production for Icebox. It was one of the first animated internet companies, 1998, 99.
Yeah, and then bust in 2001.
Nice. That's
like everybody else.
Yeah. Then we have Richard Berger in the center here. SVP Worldwide Digital Strategy, Advanced Platforms, Sony Pictures Entertainment. So Sony Pictures Home Entertainment. He drives worldwide strategy, new business initiatives with a focus on emerging digital platforms. I think I was talking to Richard. I talked to everybody before the panel, and there was a lot of crazy stuff that Richard's into for Sony, which I want to draw some out. I thought of home entertainment as sort of this thing that is not so sexy anymore. Richard's changing that. He's bringing the sexy back to home entertainment now that the DVD is gone.
Yeah, that's what I have on my card.
Bringing sexy back. And then we have Josh. Josh is co-founder, chief development officer of Jukin Media, executive producer of World's Funniest Fails on Fox. Also, a guy who took digital internet content and brought it to maybe more profitable television. So we want to talk about that. And he oversees all original content initiatives, including global development, production, distribution, TV, digital, emerging platforms. Jukin's a pretty interesting company. They're kind of often thought as an MCN, but they're really a lot more than that. And then last we have, did I do a good job? Josh, is that about right?
I can't imagine doing any more than everything you just
Then we have Hillary. How do you say your last name?
Pershad.
Pershad?
Yep.
Hillary Pershad, Vice President of Business Development, Sky B. Sky TV is the UK's largest pay TV media telecommunications company, 11.5 million subscribers. How many people in the UK?
About 60 million.
60 million?
There are 30 million households, but we're now a pan-European company with 22 million subscribers.
You got to update that.
I need to upgrade
that bio. Overseeing satellite, OT, and broadband, and he moved to San Francisco so he could, I guess, get Sky B kind of like into the mix there, right? So John, we'll kind of go back down the line. You want to sort of talk about the most important things you're focusing on at the things you're most excited about at, just quickly. You have a minute or two at Stars.
Sure. We have two areas, I think, broad areas of focus that span domestic and international markets. Our first area of focus is recreating Stars as an original programming-driven network. It originally just had movies. About 5 years ago, it was mostly movies. So once you have originals, you define your brand in a new way. You have rights that you retain. Therefore, you can do the things that I get to do, which I really enjoy. Think about new ventures, new business opportunities, and because we're not just repurposing other people's rights, we can think about doing things further afield than the U.S. and internationally. And so if I take that one level down, the areas that we focus on, from my perspective, are really thinking about what the future of content consumption is in terms of IP delivery, in terms of new products and services delivered to consumers, and thinking about, I think, a broad shift from the notion of a household being the quantum of information for the television network, as has traditionally been the case for the 115 million households in the United States, to the individual and the two-way interaction that really derives from IP. And we think about really exploring that actually in very, I think, exciting and dynamic ways internationally, because I'll make a case later on that there's just tremendous dynamism and innovation going on in international IP distribution that can teach us a lot for the days when we might see more of it here in the U.S. So those are a couple of things that we're focused on, Sean.
Okay, thank you. Joel? What can I give question? Same question. I'm not sure that I really gave the best introduction. So, like some of the stuff you're doing that you're excited about.
Yeah, I mean, Bob's Burgers is one of our most popular shows, and what we're trying to do right now is just build our online audience. People tune in on Fox Sunday nights, watch Bob's Burgers, but there isn't much of an online presence, and that's where we're looking at what we can do to build that. We did a live tour this year on the East Coast to promote the show, brought the cast together. There was a social media presence. And what kind of content can we bring from the traditional network experience and bring it online? And, when you do animation like we do, whether it be Bob's Burgers, Brickleberry, The Awesomes, whatever, we have material that people never see. And there are deleted scenes, we swap out characters, there's the whole process of creation from the design level, from the storyboard level, that we thought, it goes to waste. It just ends up in the trash can, so why don't we package it, why don't we use it, and build our audience? Let's build our social media and our online presence so then we can expand that world. The opportunities are very exciting in terms of what we can do with these characters and these worlds outside of Sunday night. So we've been having a lot of fun with that, and we've been even exploring with like Periscope so that we can do live versions of what we've been doing. And in case in particular is what we do with Bob's Burgers is we take the cast and we take the writers and we take the directors and take the artists and we talk about the episode that just aired the day before. So in some ways it's kind of like Talking Dead, what Talking Dead did for Walking Dead, and we're doing it for animation and just having a lot of fun with it.
Where do you distribute that content?
Well, that was tricky and to begin with because Fox owns Bob's Burgers. We don't own Bob's Burgers, but to encourage them of our idea that it would be a good one, we just did it on our own. We created it on our own. We figured we would kind of ask for forgiveness later if they liked the idea and they liked the concept, and they did. And so what they do is they promote it on. We both distribute it. So Fox distributes the online content on their animation domination, like YouTube sites and Tumblr pages and things like that, and we do the same on our bento box side. So we both just throw it out there.
So bentobox.com for you?
To bentoboxent.com, our website, but we also have a Behind Bob's Burgers website that is dedicated for more the behind-the-scenes material, and that is driven by the writers of the show. So they post fan art, they talk about the show, we show clips. So that's kind of like, because we want it to be all about the show and the brand of the show. So we try to push it more towards where the fans are going to see it.
Are you producing any original IP just for distribution
For the web?
For web distribution?
Yeah, we have a show called Glove and Boots, which is a funny, fantastic puppet show. And it's two guys out of Brooklyn that produce it. It's really funny, and they do it on their Glove and Boots site. And again, even with that, we're experimenting with some live shows as well, because when you're doing a live show, I have to say puppets work very well, because everybody wants to communicate with the puppets. They talk back to the viewers live, and this is all via Periscope, and we're playing with that. It's been a lot of fun. And we're also looking and developing new IPs that we're testing and trying out. And that's part of the beauty of self-distributing it, as obviously, is that you can kind of test it out and see how well it does quickly, immediately.
Richard, could you, Sony Home Entertainment, could you just, same question, just kind of share a little bit more in depth about what your mandate is?
Yeah, so Sony Pictures Home Entertainment, is part of Sony Pictures, we're focused on bringing our motion pictures and television programs to consumers in the home. There's DVD and Blu-ray, all the physical media, which everyone's very familiar with. My focus is on digital distribution, so working with our partners, the various digital services that bring movies and TV shows to you when it first comes into the home. Things like companies like iTunes and Comcast and DirecTV and Amazon, Xbox, all those guys. We focus on that a transactional business model, so you can either, what we call VOD, you can rent it, you watch it, and then it expires. You don't have to leave your couch or return a disc or anything like that. Or buy and keep, or what we call digital ownership or electronic sell-through. So a lot of the focus is on distribution, licensing to all of our partners on a worldwide basis, but increasingly our focus is on how do we really improve the consumer experience with our content through these distribution partners. And that starts usually with rights and what people can do with it when they buy it, and what platforms they can get it on. And I think we spent a lot of time over the past few years really expanding the set of rights that consumers have when they buy our content to increase the value of it. We've introduced with the other studios and a whole consortium called DECE, the Ultraviolet Ecosystem, and that's a great way to buy and keep movies digitally. You can start with a disc and with your code redeem it and put it in the cloud and then access it on your favorite Ultraviolet services. Or you could buy it digitally and it goes into the cloud automatically, and then you can access it on whatever service you like. And now we're really focusing on any kind of new technology that can enhance the experience, interactive features that go along with it, what traditionally has been added value on Blu-ray and DVDs, how do we bring that into the digital world to consumers on a more consistent and more ubiquitous basis? And then next generation formats like 4K, high dynamic range, how do we improve the whole experience for the consumer? It's basically focusing on what's next.
Yeah, I want to get a little deeper. There's a bunch of things you mentioned that I want to ask you about a little later. Josh, so Jukin is, again, as I was saying, you're kind of often seen as an MCN because you have a lot of video views, but why are you different than most MCNs?
MCN by designation, so that we can manage our own rights.
Does everyone know what an MCN is? Multi-channel network, YouTube?
We, like Maker Studios or Full Screen, a lot of the companies you guys hear about, the difference between us and them is what they're doing is they're aggregating channels that are run by independent content creators, and they're taking kind of a share of the revenue derived from Google advertising. And the difference between us and them is we're actually going out and acquiring content and acquiring all media rights for that content. So imagine a dog on a skateboard, that individual video that was uploaded by some random person, we're actually going out and striking a licensing deal to acquire the video and monetize those rights, monetize all the copies. So kind of a multi-clip network as opposed to a multi-channel network. The channels we do build are owned and operated by us, and those channels are just populated with our content. So we built a failed channel because people button people fall. And as America's Funniest Home Videos has proven for 25 years. So we did that. We did a pet channel. We do a GoPro channel, right? All we're doing is verticalizing our library and thinking of new ways to package it. My role at the company is to think of, all right, we package it in these channels. We've incubated kind of our ideas. What else can we do, whether that's OTT, apps, or taking a single piece of content and turning it into a TV show.
That's great. I'm going to delve into a little bit more of that. Hillary.
Hi.
Tell us why Sky sent you to San Francisco. I assume it's a good thing.
Yeah, well,
And-
there were worse jobs in the country.
And like how you maintain job
I
security.
was right at the back of the queue and nobody else would take it. So our simple observation at the moment is that video is the best business to be in at the moment. You know, if I were to be in any publishing business or media business, video is a great place to be. It's growing across all fronts, across short form, across OTT, across different ways of creating and managing content. And our view on how you succeed in this kind of changing and dynamic world is by doing two things really well, and I think they've both been expressed across the panel already. One is great content IP, whether that's premium content from Stars or more short-form content from the likes of Jukin. Have great content IP and own that IP, and then innovate in every way you possibly can to offer that content to your consumers in new and different and innovative ways. Innovate in the way that you find, buy, acquire, distribute content. And my job here is a realization that as a relatively small company, we consider ourselves, on a global scale, we need to embrace innovation from every single place we can find it. And if you're in media, this is where innovation is at, and that's why I'm here to pick your brains and help take some of the best ideas back into Europe.
I have a stupid question for you. Press, we were talking about press saying that sort of paints a picture of the TV's in decline. Like, what's your interpretation of this? Like, and what do you think's working in TV?
If you define TV as linear TV on traditional networks, then I'm sure we can get some numbers together that will prove that TV's in decline. The way we think about TV is every way in which you can access our content, whether that's on our own OTT service that we created 2 years ago, which is proving to be very successful, whether that's on our TV Everywhere service, whether it's on our on-demand service. If you as a broadcaster embrace every single way possible of people watching your content, if you've got great IP, people will want to watch it in more ways than ever before. And so we think video and TV is in rude health, and it's a great place to be.
Anybody cares to? I cannot watch enough TV.
I have a stat that I read, if you're interested.
Stat?
Yeah, Steve Sternberg, you can go look it up. He's great analyst of these sorts of things. 90% of all TV viewing is on a large TV in the household. Only about 3% of TV is time shifted. And for youth, we'll call it millennial, Gen Z, pick your favorite category, Y. It's still 80%, and it's not like dropping 3% a year. So I say that dispassionately just to give some numbers for context in the room.
Yeah, every time I talk to a friend, I get this feeling that I'm not watching enough television. They're like, have you seen this? Have you seen that? It seems like we're in a golden age of television as far as quality of content. Joel, jump in over a little bit to the digital side. We were talking about like what content people are most interested in seeing in the digital side. You have any thoughts on like what's optimal content?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, that's where we're experimenting, and it's really interesting that you have that fail channel, which makes a lot of sense, because people like if you study it, it's like there's content that people like that is extremely short and very quick, but yet when we go through the analytics, there is content that people want to see in a longer form too. So, as much as there's research and data saying shorter is better, or 2 minutes is the target length, or 3 minutes is the target length, or whatever, like there is contrary data that says on certain types of shows that a 20-minute show, online only, not a show that was taken from network to online, but like we were talking, there's 107 facts about The Simpsons that's 20 minutes long, but gets great viewership. So what is that secret sauce of what should content be? I think it's just going to come down to what it is, and either whether it be character-driven, scripted, non-scripted, viral component. It's like I'm giving an answer that's not an answer in a way, because it's like anything is up for grabs. But that being said, it just gives us and provides us on the creative side an awareness of what people are watching, what people are responding to, and there's a little bit of everything. But again, it's like, what market do we want to target? Do we want to target the 18 to 34-year-olds? Let's look at that data. Let's look at that research. Do we want to look at male skewing versus female skewing? And then at least we can try to refine our content to target better that audience. But it's just there is such a diversity of content that people want to watch.
What about animated content? Since that's your wheelhouse. I mean, how-to videos are going to be different than animated content. When I was creating content for shows for MSN, they wanted them to be like 70 seconds because the analytics showed that completion rates were much higher underneath 70 seconds.
So I mean, we focus definitely on the short. We are producing right now short form animated content that is anywhere from 15 seconds to 2 to 3 minutes, and if it warrants telling a longer story, we will try it out. But right now, we're building our content to be like the 2 to 3 minute, because we want a simple story that is easy to just kind of get into right off the start, keep your attention, engage you, and then we'll kind of leave you wanting more concept, and just kind of see how that goes. So that's kind of what we're working on.
Can I just, one thing that might be helpful, because we have a great panel that Sean's put together, and we represent different parts of the business, and really what's behind everything we talk about is what's the business model, right? Because TV and media, it's all a commercial art, right? It's commercial. And I think maybe one thing that's pretty helpful to think about from the audience perspective is that you have to start thinking in broad categories, because different media constructs and content constructs, long form versus short form, dramatic versus factual, prosumer versus professionally produced, all have different business models behind them. So if you sort of keep that in mind as this dialogue is going, which is very informative up here, it'll allow you to sort of start to parse the different points of view that we come to the business with, because it's very different if you talk about a $10 million an hour, I'm just making up a number, Game of Thrones, probably more expensive than that, versus a 2-minute professionally produced clip down to the prosumer or actual amateur fail. And it's just something to keep in mind. I didn't mean to hijack that, but
and then once we all start pulling web video, into the living room on our big screen, I imagine that's going to change things again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Josh, you guys you had Fail Army, and that became a Fox TV show. So we often talk about TV dollars, web dimes, mobile pennies these days. So you made that jump from the web to TV. Can you talk about that process? Because I'm sure a lot of people are interested in how you take something from the web to glorious broadcast.
Sure. Well, we're not getting Game of Thrones money. For
nobody
us, one thing we did that was smart before we even shopped it domestically was we built an international clip show around Fail Army. We did that because our analytics were so strong. So strong internationally. 80% of our views were coming outside the U.S. So we were able to go out to distributors in the international market, and the only reason we did that was to retain our IP. And as an IP company, that's very important. So instead of selling it directly to Fox, and then Fox owns Bob's Burgers, we actually went in with a rights position to say, here's Fail Army. It's an international voiceover-based clip show. It's pretty much the channel extended to 30 minutes. And we're going to go in there, and we're going to try and sell them on this idea of a next-gen AFB. That was always our grand vision for the U.S. Domestic market, shiny floor, big host, panelists, etc. We built a great format with Dick Clark. We went in there, we had the brand, we had all this equity by saying we have 7 million subscribers, we have 1 billion views. There is audience here. If it's formatted the right way, obviously it's on broadcast, so it has to be a little more family friendly. There is a way to convert this audience and send them upstream. We believe it. And so Fox made the decision to change the name. brand equity as it is, but they needed a broader audience, the 8 to 80 audience as they describe it. And we went in there and they said, let's do it Friday in prime time. Can you make the show in about 20 days? And so we went over Christmas and we filmed 10 episodes in 3 days, and it was kind of crazy. And they performed well, and so we just got picked up for another 8 episodes, which we're shooting next week.
Is it a clip show, or you're making these fail clips?
It is a clip show. It's more of a panel-based clip show. There are elements of kind of everything we've seen up until this point, but we really wanted to give comedians an opportunity to skewer the videos. And they can tell us straight, they can slow-mo, they can do things with the videos, because so much of what's funny is the way we share and engage with this content. And it's not just sending someone a video slipping out a banana peel, it's actually pointing out all the absurdities that are going on in the video.
So the difference between the web and the TV content is you're stringing a narrative over 22 minutes?
Actually doing it over 44 minutes.
44 minutes.
So we actually turned it into an hour at Fox's request. So yeah, we're taking our 4 to 5 minute compilation videos, which have no brand, no voice behind it, it's just a string out, and we kind of converted it into a TV-friendly format.
Okay. Back to John for a second on TV and original. Could you expand a little bit more on your original strategies? Like what's working there and what's coming next from you guys and how you're playing it out internationally?
Sure. It's a pleasure to talk about because I said in the beginning, Starz has roughly 23 million subscribers in the United States, and if you add up Encore, it's 53 million total. And what you've seen in the transition for what Sean called, and I think it's an apt term, a golden age of television, when I talk about scripted storytelling, we'll talk for a moment about scripted storytelling, which is where the premium TV category sits, is the notion that you create original programming to develop a brand identity for your network, and that brand identity coalesces a notion of curatorial or picking great programming for you as a consumer, so that when you come to the network, you have the types of shows that you might be interested in seeing, with the full awareness in premium TV category. Since there's only usually one night a week of premium TV, Sunday night HBO Showtime, Friday and sometimes Saturday night for Starz, that people are going to be watching different networks to see different shows. So where we're going with originals is trying to define the Starz brand as something that has originals and movies. And that's pretty critical because it's just a basic strategic element in all of today's media, I think, when you're trying to build brand premise. It's exciting to hear about Fail Army, and that has a brand premise behind it. It's been built off of amazing clips and the ability to go then attract the rights and then repackage them and create new businesses is not dissimilar to what we do with programming that costs $4 to $5 million an hour. And if it's at HBO, I gave you a number which I'm just imagining is roughly right, or Netflix spending a lot of money, $10 million maybe as well for House of Cards for an episode. So what we're trying to do is give different demographic groups that may be not well served in the premium category a better shot at finding something on Starz. So we have a show like Outlander, which we are very pleased with. It's a series based on a sequence of books. I think there's 8 or 9. 20 million copies have been sold, and Sony produces that for us, attracting a highly more of a skew to women. We have things that will appeal, hopefully. We have something called Ash versus Evil Dead, which is a reboot of the Evil Dead franchise, which will hopefully appeal to the parents of millennials and millennials themselves. And the exciting thing about where this ends up going for us is that these are little, I would call them, well, they're actually big when you think of how much they cost and how hard they are to make. But they're grains of sand that you can build a distribution and brand pearl around. And that's how you think of that when you're looking at taking originals and appealing to new audience, your core audience, new audiences, and then building that brand, premise one level up. The last thing I'll say, just to give you a sense of, I always like to say that HBO is the Motown of TV, because Motown was the brand that represented, or you could pick Blue Note for jazz or Deutsche Grammophon for classic, where the brand of the record meant something to the consumer, and HBO did that. Now we're all trying to do that, and we have to do it on more platforms, more innovation for the consumer, better, more appealing content, not seeing everybody else as just a competitor, but seeing the whole concept of video storytelling as a way to bring more people to products that we offer, subscription products, ad-supported products, short form and long form.
Is there
very long,
a
sorry.
niche that Starz is trying to fill?
Yeah, I would say that the niche that we have today, you know, there's tried and true formulas that you try to appeal to groups that may not have been focused on in the past. In premium, there's a great category opportunity around African American, Hispanic audiences. So I think when we say niche, what's funny to me, I use the word a lot, and I found that people sort of pull back and say it's too small. I like to now say mass niche, because you can't say Hispanic or African American or millennial. The entire millennial category at, you know, more than 85 million individuals is larger than the baby boomer cohort in, you know, to use a foul demographic term, but is larger than that. So these are mass niches. So Hispanic, African American, women, and we even think there's an LGBT, you know, opportunity for us as well as providing the traditional, you know, you have to have big anchor tenant shows that like our Black Sails is a pirate drama. But that's how we see it. You build big anchor tenancies, and then verticals build off of it. And the exciting part is now you get to do that on new platforms with new delivery mechanisms.
Mass niche. Like it. There's like
Go for
another
it, yeah.
15 years or so,
You
Hispanic,
heard it here.
Latin or Hispanic audience will be larger than Caucasian audiences.
That's the point, yeah.
People are going to say,
It's giant.
some of my best friends are white.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice. Richard, so it seems like the extra DVD thing was sort of like a nice to have, or let's get the director talking about this or that. It'll play well in the DVD. It's value added. We can sell that. Like, but I want to sort of lead into how is new forms of home consumption and output down the line, like VR and everything else you're working on, changing, you know, the home entertainment group's relationship with theatrical and the movie making process?
It's a great question and really timely. And it's not just because we talked before the panel and prepped for this, but it turns out that now more than ever, you know, we in the home entertainment division are working much more closely, and we've always worked closely, but it seems like it's even more of an emphasis now to work very, very proactively with theatrical so that we can plan for all the distribution, not just sort of theatrical first and then sort of home entertainment just kind of comes after, and we'll cobble together experiences with what we have. We're really looking at it holistically, I think now more than ever, and considering all the different platforms that we can, you know, distribute through. And they all have unique attributes, and so there are some things that we can do maybe in home entertainment that we can't do in theatrical, or things that we can do digital that we can't do on physical, and we're starting to look at that in a different way where we can plan for different experiences that really capitalize on those platforms, that optimize the experience for consumers and take advantage of these platforms, you know, and think about that with the talent up front. You know, that's becoming more important now, more now than ever before.
Yeah, you guys are getting a little bit more respect.
Well, I mean, we're, you know, I don't know that we ever lacked the respect. I mean, when you sort of look at the DVD boom days, and, you know, you think of DVD now, and it's like, oh, it's on the, you know, it's declining. But gosh, you know, for a while in the heyday, you could pretty much put anything on a DVD and people would buy it. I think now we're in a situation where, you know, DVD is still very strong in some markets, and in a lot of markets, and physical media, Blu-ray, very, very strong in a lot of markets. But digital is growing and emerging, and so we're looking at trying to maximize the experience across all those different formats. And I think what's unique, and one of the things that is worth calling out, is when we would make and distribute DVD and Blu-ray, the studio actually makes the experience. They make the product, and then the retailer sells a finished good. Mm-hmm. And in digital, it's a little bit more of a gray area and a hybrid, because we license the content, and pretty much every retailer, digital retailer, takes it in a different format, They might even have different digital rights, like what you can do with it when they distribute it. And then the extras, the interactive features, they may not all have platforms that can support the same thing. So trying to think about how we know our products really well, so we want to be able to enhance them the best we can, but then we need to work with our partners to figure out how we can actually bring that to the consumer through their platform. So it's a partnership with our distributors as well. So it's very, very interesting, and we're working very proactively, not only with the theatrical group to create the experiences that we want to bring, but also with our partners to be able to figure out how to distribute it on their platforms.
I have a follow-on question for you, which what in the evolution of imagery, some of the stuff you're working on, 4K, high dynamic range, like do we really need these for a better experience? Do we need more pixels? Like what's happening there?
I love that question. And in fact, there's probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 panels that are probably talking about 4K and high dynamic range, and you'll hear different sides of the chain on that. I mean, the thing is, it's really up to the individual. I will say that when HD rolled out, it was like a huge leap over standard definition, and I think we could see how that how the uptake and the adoption went, and HD's pretty amazing. But then when you actually can see what some of these new technologies can do to the picture beyond HD, 4K together with expanded color, high dynamic range, immersive audio, depending on what the director or the talent is looking for, they can have more control than ever to create the kind of experience that they want. The filmmaker can change frame rates. I mean, there's all different looks that they can create now that they couldn't really do before. And so to me, it's just there are more tools now that the creative community can use, and it's our job as distributors to figure out how to bring that to consumers. There's a lot of excitement in the CE industry around 4K. They're selling 4K sets really fast. Every time they have a number that they're projecting, they blow it away. So we're seeing a lot of fast uptake. If anyone went to CES, I mean, 4K, it wasn't just about 4K, but we've now seen HDR talked about everywhere, and for those of you who don't know about it, it's high dynamic range. It's not just brighter brights and darker darks, but actually a lot more detail within the whole range of the picture. So it's not just more pixels, it's more details in the pixel, better pixels. And so when you actually can bring a higher quality experience of your content to the consumer, I know we get excited about it, and maybe it's not everyone, but there's going to be a segment, maybe it's a mass niche, I don't know, of the population that's really going to care about that. In particular, it's really important with what we call our super consumers, and the guys that really engage the most with our content.
Thank you.
My
yeah.
first role in Sky was launching HD for Sky, and in the UK, SD was actually pretty good. It was much better than SD in the US, and I remember sitting there thinking, this is going to be a hard sell, selling people essentially just a bit better picture quality. It's huge, it's now standard, it takes a bit of time, and I think people never say no to better picture quality. And much as you can argue over whether it's good enough, I think consumers will still buy into it.
Did you market it around sports and lead that way?
We launched with sports, movies, entertainment, drama, documentaries. We did launch with 10 channels because we recognised that if we were going to get in, we had to drive it hard and early. I think 4K, we're at a much earlier stage still at the moment. It's going to take a while for the content to come through, particularly because in sports it means swapping out all the equipment again. So it's going to take time. But these things are things that the consumers have cared about consistently.
I agree. I think one thing I would add is just from the content industry's perspective that it increases the cost today to deliver 4K, especially if you have an FX-driven type of program. It's different when you're talking movies versus TV, so it all has to be sort of deconstructed in that regard. But it's just a feature. 4K is going to be everywhere. We still don't have a physical device that can bring it into the home. It's a giant amount of data coming in. So I think one of the things that Richard has said, and I really agree with, is things like HDR is just an absolutely extraordinary, to me, expansion of the viewing experience without a hugely expensive upstream, cost change to the entire, production distribution infrastructure. And that's not saying 4K is not coming. So there's a lot of levers that can be pulled, which is great. And the thing that just has to happen is it has to happen in concert with the content folks on all of the different platforms, film and TV, to make sure that we can bring it to you all at the right cost and continue to have the type of vibrant programming you're used to.
I have just a couple more questions about on the content creation side. Joel, so you've been creating animated content for like, I don't know, 20 years maybe?
20 plus years, yeah.
How's the cost change? I would imagine that you're able to produce a lot more content a lot faster than you ever before. Processing power, collaboration across the globe, storage.
We had talked about this because, you know, technology, producing animation 20 years ago to now has changed quite a bit. And literally, you know, when you talk about early days of The Simpsons, you know, we are talking about people hand drawing paper and pencil, putting it on to a clear cell, and somebody hand painting each cell, you know, maybe a new drawing every 2 frames, and we're talking about 24 frames a second. So if you do the math, it's a lot of drawing, a lot of painting. And it took it, but the ironic thing, you know, with new technology, new ways of cutting time in our process, it still takes about the same amount of time to produce an episode of The Simpsons or Family Guy or Bob's Burgers. Bob's Burgers actually is a little bit quicker because we do some other innovative things. But the reason is, honestly, it's not because we can't do it faster. It's because the time we save, we actually put it back into the show to make it funnier. So it allows us more time to make more revisions in the animation and in the process. And that's kind of where it goes. But we do ideally shoot to streamline the process because we don't hand paint things anymore. It's all done by computers. You know, at Bento Box, we've eliminated drawing on paper completely, and everything is drawn directly into the computer as well. So it allows for us to just turn around things much, much quicker. Things in the past, you know, we actually had to hard ship items via FedEx, and that took a lot of time. Things had to go through customs, and there was a lot of film. But you know, we want to continually make a better product. So that means we do more revisions, more script revisions. We bring in the actors more often so that we can do pickups. And we just really fine-tune the animation. So, you know, hopefully people are noticing that the quality continues to get better.
Because of advances in technology, animation is funnier.
We hope so.
Can we draw that?
Yes, yes.
All right. Josh, one last question on content creation, sort of. So you have a licensing business where you guys will essentially do for other people what you did with Fail Army. Like, is there any, share like a use case where you would be kind of a production arm for a producer, another production company?
Sure. So the core business is to go out, find content for anyone else, and acquire the rights. That's an individual piece of content, user-generated, short form by nature. It's everything your kids are doing on their cell phone. It's Vines, it's Instagram. You know, we look at Periscope and Meerkat. Any platform for content is important to us to go and acquire. Once we do that, there's various things we can do. The business was built to go and just license that to clip shows. And in the last 10 years, there's been some really great clip shows, like the world's wildest everything. And, you know, everything you can see on True TV or many of these other cable networks, because it was low cost, high volume. They produced a lot of episodes. This is a great way to build these shows. So we were just a traditional licensor, finding content digitally, acquiring the rights, and redistributing it. Over time, it's evolved because the Today Show, Good Morning America, Anderson Cooper, anyone you could think of, Ellen, they're all thinking of ways to package viral videos or short form content and tell stories. Sometimes we assist in that. Sometimes we just hand a piece of content. We can build packages for clip shows and hand it directly to them. Like, here's a whole thing about trampoline, and they put it right in the show. You know, Tosh, Ridiculousness. Think of all the shows that are using viral videos or short-form clips. But what we also do is that digitally we can syndicate it out. And so technology for us is less about discovery and much more about distribution. Getting it in people's hands faster so that we create virality. Right? When content is ubiquitous, that's what's happening. It's on the Huffington Post, it's on Mashable, it's on MSN, Yahoo, AOL. That same piece of content, and then of course we're licensing it to TV. That's where mom and dad see it, they tell everyone, they go Google it, right? It's a virtuous cycle. So for us, we can curate our brands and send that out. Like I could syndicate Fail Army, I could syndicate Jukin, we can do it with Vessel or any of these other platforms, or we can just have the individual video asset in sort of like a white label role that we're monetizing in all these places.
That's great. So let's switch a little bit to changing consumption, distribution. Hillary, can you talk a little bit about what's happening in the UK, what maybe we can learn from there? Is there anything we can learn from what's happening in the UK?
I think it's interesting.
Just, if there isn't.
Everything. How to drive in the rain. How to stand in line. Yeah. So I think one of the things that we did fairly early on, compared to some of the US operators, is got into OTT. We launched a dedicated OTT business 2 years ago. It's called Now TV. We white labeled the Roku box, so it's in the UK it's called the Now TV box, and we sell Now TV on the Now TV box. Customers we acquire on a Roku box, i.e. the Now TV box, have a much greater lifetime value. Now TV customers are growing hugely within our business. It's been a great way of extending our proposition and our business into new markets and into new customers. And the important thing from our point of view as well is it's completely non-cannibalistic with our core business. So we have a big core Sky offering that goes out to everyone, and then Now TV, which sells entertainment at £8, movies at £9, and sports at £7 a day, targets a completely different demographic and brings new people into our business who otherwise wouldn't have subscribed to our business. So I think one of the things, I think the interesting thing is the willingness to embrace new ways of distributing content can bring you new customers as well as can bring you new customers.
Is there, I'm going to go, I switch to John. So the cable, I love OTT personally. Like cable is like for rich people, basically. There's my cable bill is like $250 a month. Well, I guess I get internet with that too, but it's still expensive. And why don't we? I mean, us throw this at John. Like, what's going to happen if we go all OTT? Will a lot of channels just go out of business? Will we? You think? Okay.
Yeah. So I can tell you why. So here's the intriguing thing. I'm going to say this because Star is a premium channel. We're not ad supported. We can be more flexible about how we deliver our product to consumers. And I think of the words OTT and I translate them from premium world to direct to consumer versus selling through a wholesaler. So there's different notions of OTT, but let's put that to the side for a second. Now I'm going to take my hat off that I work for a premium network that has no ads on it. I'll put my hat pretending I'm working at a cable network that has ads, that has dramatic content, factual content, and the like. If you're in that cable bundle, you're distributed and you're large to 101 million households in the United States. 103, sorry, is the latest number. Apologies. About 50% of your revenues will be from advertising and 50% will be from the affiliate fees that the cable operator pays to you. There are 3 companies, I will not name them, but they are very large media companies who account for 70% of all the affiliate fee payments. So the problem is, if you're one of those ad-supported networks and you come out of the bundle, you immediately lose the affiliate fee revenue stream, which could be 50% of your business. And you're not then in front of 103 million households to make that advertising money make up for the loss in affiliate fees.
I'd like to ask a question.
Yeah.
The 103 million households, I always thought that was kind of a misnomer. Like, you could say on the web, I'm in front of 1 billion households and sell against that.
Yeah. So here's the difference. This is something to keep in mind as you think about these businesses and content business models. If you're on a cable, if you have a cable network and you sell it to all the major cable, telco, and satellite TV operators, they pay you for the entire sub-universe that they address, not based on what you watch, not based on engagement, not based on click-throughs, not based on CPA, not based on 30-second spots. They pay you those affiliate fees for all of their subs. So if you're a network, you could be ESPN or you could be TNT, you'll be getting affiliate fees from 103 million households. So therein lies the rub. When you're in front of 1 billion households, there's a real issue, and you have to think of it this way, that in the past, when we didn't have IP distribution, there was barriers to how you could get to the consumer called cable, satellite, and telco, and broadcast. That may have created pricing that was much higher for advertising, inventory, and the like, because there wasn't as porous a business. So you have to ask yourself, when you're in front of a lot more web customers, are you going to be generating as much revenue per customer as you were in the world of, this is large-scale media, so I'm not, let's not think of MCNs, and that's a different world. As if you were in this bundle getting 103 million households worth of affiliate fees and then advertising revenue from whomever is watching your channel. And there, in that lies the rub, that you could be in front of 1 billion households making 1/10 of a cent and making a lot less money than being in front of 103 million households with almost nobody watching you but getting those affiliate fee payments. Didn't mean to take you on that long ride, but that's sort of how it works.
I want to stay on distribution, but more go to Richard and more talk about search. It seems not inconceivable that the concept of channels may go away sometime based on streaming, customization, unlimited content availability. Richard and I spoke about search and frame level metadata, the ability to go to any scene by searching a phrase. How do you see that playing out in the user experience? And how do you see the user experiencing content in new ways based on frame level metadata, sharing, that kind of thing?
And we've been playing around with that a little bit. I wouldn't.
Maybe explain.
Yeah,
frame
I
level
will.
metadata.
I will. I probably wouldn't put it in the context of channels going away, because I think to the extent that a channel puts together a bunch of great shows, and then I think the channel adds value, and that's not. I don't see that going away anytime soon.
Great clips.
Exactly. But there, with on demand, which is available in addition to channels, and that's how we sell our content. Kind of show by show. You can go to any digital store, and you can either rent it or buy it digitally and keep it if it's ownership, or rent it and watch it and it expires. That's all, the retailers, the digital services give you a mean to browse or search and find the shows you want, and sort of that's not really the search that we're talking about here. What we're playing around with is that for a number of our feature films and TV series, we are enhancing the program and basically putting together frame level metadata, which is we know exactly what's going on in every frame of every scene of the movie or of the show. So then what can you do when you have that information? What can you do with it? And so we started to play around with sort of inter-program search, or enhanced scene search as we call it, where we've released some titles where you can actually type in a keyword. Maybe it's something that one of the actors said in part of the dialogue. It could be an object, could be kind of anything. And it'll take you right to the scene where that is. And that works particularly well in comedies where, people like to recite the lines over and over again, so you can find your favorite moments. And then coupling with that, we're trying to figure out ways where we can make it easy for people to share their favorite moments with their friends and through their social networks or whatever out of the experience. And then hopefully that brings people back into the experience. So we have this thing we rolled out called Clip and Share, where you can actually, in one application of it is you're watching a movie, and we surface when a scene is clippable, and then you can click on it, it'll pause the movie, and then you can actually clip it out and share it right then and there, and add a comment or some hey.
Why wouldn't the whole film be clippable?
Well, I mean, we can't just have people share the whole film. We want to share a clip, and we have to follow the guild agreements for promotional clipping, and so
Okay.
we have to follow those guidelines. And so there's a certain length, a max length for the clip, and there are certain scenes of a movie that may not be allowed to be shared. And so what we try and do is work within the rules and create the best experience that we can, and we're constantly trying to push on the barriers of that, because we think that could be a whole new way for people to enjoy or enhance the experience of the film. Now, obviously, not everyone's going to want to do that, and so you don't have to have that feature turned on, but but for some people that could be really fun. So we're playing around with things like that, just new ways to engage people, and it sort of speaks to that, maybe creating some bite-sized experiences from some longer form content, which could be really fun on different platforms.
Still on search, John, we were talking about social graph, algorithmic recommendation, semantic recommendation. Is this stuff that you guys are looking at for stars, or you were just pontificating?
I don't even know what I was saying, but I have a thought. No, it was more about the notion of where you went with what's the value of a channel and a network, and I think Richard hit the nail on the head that really it's about an editorial effect, and I don't mean that in a negative sense. It would be about curation and picking up brand exactly. When you pick up a print publication, not in print, but I mean online, it has a brand and it represents choices that fall on that website and the like. Same thing with a TV network. It makes choices about what it puts in front of you, or an MCN even, makes choices. So one of the things that I think we're at the very early stage, which premium TV is actually particularly well suited, is for people to discover and find content of the ilk that, in this case, premium, that is informed by a lot more, I'll call it, human and machine-based intelligence than we use today. And what do I mean by that? I mean, if you take traditional recommendation systems in the electronic world, and Netflix has a really good one, they use a lot of, it's called collaborative filtering. They do other things, but it's people like this, like that. And you do enough of it, and you figure out sort of what people like. But think of how rich your social graph is, and what people on Facebook are thinking about things, or Twitter and the like. And if you started to put your affinity groups of friends who, some friends may have a horror passion, some may like action, some may like period dramas, and if you could tap into that and get recommendations, find and discover content, share with them your interests, because I think what a lot of the panelists said is that with even older generations, but younger generations, that video is the expression of who you are. Like it used to be like, come look at my record collection or my etchings, if you go back to the Dutch.
That's great.
But video has become that. So being able to discover and find and stay ahead of things in your friend peer group, whether you're 8 to 80, like the Fox demo was, is really important. And we're at the very sort of beginning stages of being able to use technology to bring the human element, which is a professional curator, the consumer social graph, and then machine-based intelligence to recommend things and create, wheels of programming under brand names and maybe outside of them that are really interesting to you. And to me, that's a lot of exciting stuff that's going on when you get to looking at things on devices and when you're delivering an IP. And it's one I think you can probably track for the next 5 years and find a lot of innovation around it. Hopefully, knock wood.
All right. We have about 15 minutes. I'm going to ask a couple more questions. And anybody just by a show of hands, anybody want to ask a question? Or I'm going to take a question from you right now. What do you have? What is it?
So we have a product. So the world of HBO falls into, from my outside perspective, I did work there. So there's something called HBO Go. That's a TV Everywhere product. You guys all know about that. So they launched something called HBO Now, which is exclusive on Apple TV for a period of time. And you can just buy HBO on a la carte, we'll call it, subscription on top of your broadband for roughly $15. So the fascinating thing about that product offering is that you have to be extremely large in order, and extremely powerful in order to not be channel conflicted. What I mean by that is not the TV channel, but conflicted with your distributors in delivering a service. So companies like Starz and Showtime do a lot of thinking about how it is that they can work with cable, telco, which both own pipes into the home, and satellite, which is now increasingly offering over-the-top services themselves, like the Dish Sling product. And so our view is that for the point of Starz evolution that we're in, we're much better off focusing, because we're building an original programming brand and we haven't achieved, I will call, an HBO level of success in the market. We're hopeful that we will, that it's much more important for us to create innovative products to work with the guys, gals that own pipes into the home, and to the extent that there's wide area networking over wireless that you could do that. So we focus our product innovation there. HBO is taking, I think, a bold step to focus its product innovation around a direct-to-consumer offering. I think probably in our category, they're the one to have done it. And if Showtime ends up doing it too, it's probably more of an offer that includes a broader CBS mandate to deliver content more directly to consumers. We are small. We're hopefully punching above our weight, but we really need to, be a partner that delivers innovation with our current distributors. And that's me not dancing around it, hopefully.
Oh, by the way, I almost forgot to introduce myself. I'm Sean Gold, and I'm head of entertainment for Wattpad, which is this crazy global youth culture phenomenon around reading. It's like YouTube for the written word. Last month there were 40, I can't believe I forgot to do this, is the whole reason I'm on the panel. Last month there were 44 million people on Wattpad, and over 100,000 people join each day. It's mostly like 13 to 30-year-old women, and that's it. So it's all mobile. It's like 87% mobile. Okay, let's go to monetization a little bit. And part of my job is equitable distribution of intelligence from the panel. So I'm going to loop in Josh, because I haven't heard from him in a while. What's like on the monetization side, what is a content home run for you guys?
In terms of views or in terms of
In terms of ultimately making money, the least amount spent to make the most amount of money in various different ways.
So buy low, sell high, always. The ones that pay the most would be advertisers, and that is licensing a piece of content for an ad campaign. My background's in media sales, so I kind of understand where they're kind of converging on their end between the media and the creative. They built all those branded entertainment shops about 5 years ago, but they didn't know what they were there to do necessarily. And I think for us, because we teeter in that convergence, we have found a great asset where your brand is native or it speaks to some sort of psychographic data point you have for Father's Day or something around Halloween. And what we're saying is we're going to package that for you so you don't have to go and make an expensive commercial with talent and everything. This is your campaign. And so Google has been very active in doing that with Android. Taco Bell has done stuff with us, Pizza Hut. They pay premium because a lot of times they want maybe exclusive rights, in which case we have to remove it from our library, license it to them exclusively, or they want it for a window, 90 days, 6 months, a year. So to kind of do that a lot more than just posting it on YouTube and monetizing it through AdSense.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking your answer was going to be like something that, something we can license but build a brand around, so we don't have to have a high production cost. That the brand we can obviously distribute on multiple platforms, and we can also sell T-shirts and merchandise, and which I'm going to loop you, Joel, into this conversation.
Yeah.
The similar question, but phrased differently, and that is, if you were, starting your content creation career today, like what types of content would you focus on, forgetting about what you love to do?
It's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to think about, to not think about animation. It's because I've been doing it for so long. But to your point as well, it's like, and you brought it up as well. It's like you don't want to. Animation takes a lot of time to produce, and it takes a lot of money as well. It doesn't mean that you have to go down that road for it to be successful in my world, like in this animated world. So I would definitely look at cost, just like to produce this. And it's been shown that you don't, these clips that have done very well, some of, it took them no money to make. I mean, it was somebody's video camera or phone or whatever, and now it's a great viral clip.
They call it accidental content creation.
Yeah, and that's where probably, it makes the most business sense. It's like looking into ways to create engaging, fun, exciting content that people want to see, but that isn't going to take a lot of time, and it's going to be easy to produce. Hard to replicate, especially when things are based on, say, just fortunate accidents or something like that. But it doesn't. But we can look at other ways of doing that. But that being said, it's kind of like why reality TV took off so quickly, because people just put cameras in front of people's faces and just got a lot of content, packaged it, and it was easy to produce. But I probably would, it's hard, like my heart is always tied to engaging storytelling and content, and I would still go down that road,
Okay. Fair enough. Still on monetization, go to Richard, and Hillary, you can jump in also. With this, I guess, a la carte world that we're sort of living in partially, can anyone guarantee that content is future-proof, like with this Ultraviolet initiative, or at least fair, and I don't have to rebuy the whole thing over and over again?
Yeah, I mean, we've actually a lot of the historically, I guess the studios have done a really good job of reselling the same movies over and over and over again on new formats: VHS, DVD, Blu-ray, et cetera, et cetera. But one of the things that we've been doing, and particularly it's very well enabled in digital and with the cloud and with Ultraviolet in particular, is once you buy something and your rights are stored in the cloud, we now know what you have, and so we can design upgrade programs for you. So you really can, future-proof as best you can. So if you buy, let's say you bought a DVD and you redeemed your Ultraviolet code, and it gives you a standard definition digital version of that, and then later you decide, I want to upgrade to HD. We do that. We give you an upgrade offer, and you don't have to rebuy the whole thing in HD. We count the fact that you have the SD version already. And it's a very elegant way to create new offers based on what you already own and collect. And so I think it adds value to your collection, and it also gives us an ability, a new way to sell new features or new things based on the fact that you already have invested in it.
So it's getting better.
Yeah, I mean, like when Blu-ray first came out, there were some websites that were launched where it was, I think, DVD to Blue was the campaign, and so we asked you to mail in your DVD, and then we would, upcharge the difference and send you back the Blu-ray, and that's the same concept, but it was a lot more clunky, and in the digital domain, we kind of already know, and then a digital retailer can take advantage of that. And there are other things that we can do based on the fact that we know that you own the movie. We can create a new playback experience for you. You just sign in, verify that you own it, and now you can play it back maybe in a different way. So there's all kinds of things that we can do, and I think we've really only scratched the surface with that.
Okay. Another question? Right there? Anybody want to tackle that? How?
It's interesting we say HBO
Good.
is a technology. Sorry for jumping in.
No, I would like you to
It's
answer
interesting we
this.
say HBO is a technology company, because actually if you looked at what they've done, they're a content company who've outsourced their entire technology to somebody else. So I don't think you have to be great at both. I think it is possible to be great at both, but it requires effort. Better to be absolutely amazing at one or the other than average at both. But if you can be amazing at both, that is even better. And that's kind of where we like to try and be.
I just think that over time, the presentation layer, the thing that you present through, whether it's the appification of channels or device-based media, will require content companies to become more product focused. So I think the question that you're asking, that if you took it a different way, is that traditional content companies are not product companies with product roadmaps and, I'm thinking engineering driven environments in traditional software worlds. But the more you interact with individuals through devices, the more, and the more you're responsible for some element of that presentation layer, and in the big data analytics, I just used the word because I had to say big data, the phrase, analytics that actually do power curation like I was talking about, will require content companies to be at least more facile in technology. And the point I try and make when a question like yours, which is really a really very good question about the future, is it's easier for technology companies to become content companies than it is for content companies to become technology companies today. That can change, but you're right on target, I think, and Hillary's point's well taken as well in terms of the future needs when you are a content creator.
One last question back there.
Yeah, this question's for Rich, but anybody can answer it. I think one Rich or Rich. I really like what you're working on with respect to the in-frame metadata. So no suit for you and Seinfeld clicks, comes up. But why are you doing that and not someone like Google? And do you think if Google tried to do something like that, that the industry would try to shut them down, even though it would benefit the industry like the authors did in connection with the Google Books project?
Well, I don't know that Google isn't working on something like that. They might be. But we do have they're a partner of ours. We distribute our content through the Google Play Store and on YouTube, and we work very closely with them on new innovations like this. Sometimes we bring the idea to them. Sometimes they bring the idea to us. I think it's incumbent upon us as a studio to try and think of ways to bring new experiences to consumers and not just wait for our partners to do it. They approach the problem from a slightly different angle than we do. In the end, we're both trying to make the experience better for consumers, but sometimes it's really great when they have an idea and it comes to us and maybe we hadn't thought of it, and if we like it, we tend to do everything we can to make it happen. If we don't, then it becomes an interesting debate, and vice versa. So it goes both ways, but that's when you can end up having the best result, is when the ideas come from both sides.
So with that, we're out of time. I want to, myself and Digital Hollywood, appreciate you guys showing up for this. And audience, thank you guys for coming.
Thank you, Sean. That was great.